Scientists surveyed 43,000 people. One simple question predicted who would die sooner. The question was not about diet. It was not about exercise. It was not about medication. The question was about meaning. Researchers asked people if they felt their life was worth living. And the answer to that single question turned out to be linked to death risk more strongly than many familiar health factors. It sounds beautiful. It sounds like another line from a self-help book. Find your purpose and you will live longer. But the real science here is far more complicated than any slogan. Because years later, another group of researchers asked an uncomfortable question. What if it works the other way around? What if a lack of purpose does not actually kill people sooner? What if declining health quietly erases a person's sense of meaning long before that decline becomes visible to anyone else? This finding flips the usual logic upside down, and that is exactly why you should stay until the very end. Because the twist waiting for you here is unexpected. It could change how you think about the entire link between purpose and longevity. Today we will unpack what scientists actually found. We will start with a village on a Japanese island home to an unusually large number of people who live past 100. Then we will look at data from 13,000 Americans. We will examine a possible biological mechanism behind all of this. And we will end with the very twist that made researchers question their own conclusions. Let us start with the study that started it all. Japanese researchers launched a massive project called the Osaki Study. They recruited over 43,000 adults and asked each one a single question. Do you have Ikigai in your life, meaning a sense that your life is worth living? That is it. No lengthy questionnaire, no complicated psychological test. Just one honest question, the kind you might ask a close friend over a dinner. Then, the researchers waited. They tracked these people for 7 years, recording who stayed alive and who did not. By the end of that period, just over 3,000 of the participants had died. Here is where it gets fascinating. People who said they did not have that sense of Ikigai faced a noticeably higher risk of death compared to those who did. But the pattern was not spread evenly across every cause of death. The increased risk showed up mainly in cardiovascular disease and in external causes, things like accidents. Cancer deaths, strangely, did not follow the same pattern. Think about that for a moment. If a sense of meaning simply made people healthier in a general way, you would expect it to lower every kind of death risk equally, including cancer. Instead, the effect looked oddly specific. It pointed toward the heart and blood vessels, almost as if meaning and cardiovascular health were tangled together through some shared underlying pathway. This is not a small or obscure study. It is one of the largest of its kind ever conducted on this topic. Researchers all over the world took notice, and it sparked a wave of similar research asking the exact same question in different countries, different cultures, and different age groups. Which is exactly where we are headed next. So the question became obvious. Does this only happen in Japan, or does it show up everywhere? Researchers in the United States decided to find out. They pulled data from a massive national project called the Health and Retirement Study. This gave them information on over 13,000 American adults, all older than 50. Each person had reported their sense of purpose in life at the start of the study. Then, researchers tracked who survived over the following 8 years. The results lined up almost perfectly with what the Japanese team had found. People with the highest sense of purpose in life had a noticeably lower risk of death compared to people with the lowest sense of purpose. And this was not just true for one narrow group. The pattern held up across men and women. It held up across different income levels. It held up across different racial and ethnic backgrounds. That consistency matters enormously in science. A result that only shows up in one country, in one culture, in one narrow slice of people, could easily be a fluke or a product of something unique to that specific population. But when the same pattern appears again and again, across an ocean, across different languages, across completely different lifestyles, it becomes much harder to dismiss as coincidence. And it did not stop there. A large analysis combining data from many separate studies conducted worldwide came to the same conclusion. A strong sense of purpose in life was linked to a lower risk of death from any cause, and specifically to a lower risk of cardiovascular events, the same pattern the Japanese researchers had first noticed. At this point, the evidence looked remarkably solid. Different countries, different research teams, different populations, all pointing toward the same conclusion, meaning appeared to matter for how long people lived. But solid evidence for a link is not the same thing as solid evidence for a cause. And that distinction is about to become the most important part of this entire story. So if this link is real, how could a feeling like purpose possibly reach all the way down into your blood vessels and your heart? Scientists have a plausible answer, and it starts with a hormone you have probably heard of, cortisol. Cortisol is your body's main stress hormone. In short bursts, it is useful. It helps you react to danger and get through difficult moments. But when stress becomes chronic, when it never really switches off, cortisol stays elevated for months or years at a time. And that constant elevation comes with a cost. Researchers have found that people with a strong sense of purpose in life tend to show lower cortisol levels. They also tend to show lower levels of inflammatory markers circulating in their blood, tiny proteins that signal ongoing low-grade inflammation throughout the body. Here is a simple way to picture this. Think of chronic inflammation as rust slowly forming inside a metal pipe. You cannot see it from the outside. There is no dramatic moment where the pipe suddenly bursts. Instead, the rust builds up quietly year after year, weakening the pipe from the inside until, eventually, something gives way. Your blood vessels can behave in a similar manner. Years of chronic low-grade inflammation are believed to damage the lining of blood vessels, contributing over time to heart disease. If a strong sense of purpose genuinely lowers this kind of chronic inflammation, that could help explain why the protective effect in these studies showed up specifically around cardiovascular disease rather than cancer. It is an elegant explanation. Purpose calms the stress response. A calmer stress response means less chronic inflammation. Less chronic inflammation means healthier blood vessels over time. Each piece connects logically to the next. But elegant explanations in science come with a warning label. They can be completely true, partially true, or, in some cases, backwards entirely. And this particular explanation was about to be challenged by a group of researchers willing to ask an uncomfortable question. Here is the uncomfortable question a group of researchers finally decided to ask. Every study so far had shown a link between purpose and survival, but a link is not proof of cause. So these researchers set out to test something deeper. Does a weak sense of purpose actually cause poor health and earlier death? Or does declining health simply cause a weaker sense of purpose, with the arrow of causation pointing in the opposite direction the whole time? To test this, they controlled for far more detailed health information than earlier studies had used. They also looked at what happened when people who died very early in the study, likely due to illness that was already present at the start, were removed from the analysis. The result was surprising. Once these more complete health measures were taken into account, much of the link between purpose and future death risk seemed to disappear. The evidence pointed toward a different explanation entirely. A person's sense of purpose in life may simply be reflecting their current state of health rather than shaping their future health. Picture it this way. Imagine your sense of purpose as a dashboard light in a car. When the engine already has a problem, that light turns on. But the light itself is not the thing damaging the engine. It is just a signal that something underneath is already wrong. Turning the light off or forcing it to look positive would not repair the actual engine. In other words, when someone's health quietly starts declining, from fatigue, from mild depression, from an illness that has not been diagnosed yet, that decline may show up first as a loss of enthusiasm and a fading sense of purpose, long before any doctor notices a physical symptom. The purpose was never the cause of what came later. It was an early warning sign of something that had already begun. This does not erase everything we covered so far. It reframes it. And that reframing matters more than it might seem, especially for anyone hoping a single mindset shift could add years to their life. So does this mean chasing a sense of purpose is pointless? Not at all. It just means the honest answer is more complicated than any slogan. Think of a man who retired healthy and full of energy. 6 months later, he started sleeping poorly for no obvious reason. Doctors found nothing wrong. He began volunteering on Wednesdays, mentoring young business owners, simply because he missed talking through real problems. Within months, his sleep improved. Was it the purpose itself, or was it the walking, the socializing, the structure that came along with it? Science still cannot fully separate those threads. Think of a woman who lost her husband. For over a year, her days blurred into one grey stretch with no clear meaning. Her daughter convinced her to foster an aging dog from a shelter. Caring for something that depended on her every single day brought back a sense that mornings mattered again. Coincidence or cause? Nobody can say for certain. Here is the most honest conclusion researchers can offer right now. A sense of purpose probably will not add years to your life by itself, like a pill you swallow once. But the things that usually come bundled with a meaningful life, movement, connection with other people, and less chronic stress, those things have real, measurable effects on your body. And maybe the exact order of cause and effect matters less than we think. If searching for something meaningful gets you moving more, sleeping better, and feeling calmer, your body benefits either way, regardless of how scientists eventually untangle this puzzle. So here is a question worth sitting with. Do you feel your life has that sense of purpose right now? Or has it been fading quietly? Tell me in the comments below. And if you want more science-backed videos exploring the surprising connections between your mind and your longevity, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next one.